What's going on, guys, and welcome back to another video, and welcome to your daily news report and economic update for Monday, August 8th. So we have some big warnings that we need to give you. First, I want to talk about a major tax warning that's going to impact millions and millions of Americans and how many people are not seeing what's actually coming. We're going to talk about some supply chain disruptions and how the reports that the supply chain is getting better. Well, that could also be a false report, because now we're seeing that, yes, the supply chain was looking better initially, but now it is struggling in the ports. I want to explain why in just a minute. Also going to talk about how the DOT is potentially going to bring more help for people that are flying. This is a big deal because a lot of people do not even want to fly right now because of the chance their flight may be delayed or canceled. So, not good news there, but the DOT is potentially going to step up and provide some more relief to the American consumer. We also need to talk about housing. This is a big issue. It's a huge issue, and I'll explain what's going on in just a minute. So let's get right down to it. All I ask is if you can spend just 2 seconds, go ahead, hit that like button, consider subscribing, and let's continue. Okay, so first off, what is this major tax warning? Well, here's the thing. With the Senate passing that $740 billion tax, climate, and healthcare bill, there's going to be $80 billion that will go towards the IRS to hire more workers, more employees, and then go after the tax cheats, right? We've heard this for months. This is going to happen. Well, there's another way that they are going to go after regular people like you and I. And that is, and again, you got to keep in mind that this past year there was a new law. This new law stated that once a third-party payment processor like PayPal or Venmo, once you get more than $600 in a calendar year, they have to send you out a 1099, which means you have to report that on your income taxes. Well, that's where regular people like you and I are going to get hit. And again, if you don't know, if you weren't sure exactly what this was, in years past, PayPal or Venmo or whoever, you had to actually get 200 transactions and over $20,000 in income sent to you. Well, that's changed. It's only $600. There's no minimum amount of transactions, just $600. Well, that creates an issue. And I say this because many people, and this only works for goods and services, not, let's say your friends and family are sending you money as a gift, right? Birthday present, here you go, here's $20. That's not for goods or services, right? You split a bill, right, from a restaurant. That's not goods and services. Because let's say you pay all $40 of it and your friend's like, oh, I'll get the other, we'll split that 20/20. I'll Venmo you $20. That's not goods and services. So that's just exchanging money between friends and family. That's not tax. But if the person hits the wrong button and it's for goods and services, you will pay taxes on that, right? But here's the problem. The problem is that many people are already forgetting that this is even here. And I bring this up because, and so my wife, she accepts Venmo all the time from people. And I have to keep reminding her because she always forgets that, hey, just be aware that we may have to pay taxes on that if they're not doing it correctly. So make sure you point that out to them. And again, it's stuff, simple things. Oh, they want to donate to a school, or they want to do this or that, whatever. That's fine. But keep in mind that come tax time, the IRS is going to have a lot more workers. They're going to have much more time. They're not going to be as overloaded with work. And guess what? They're going to come after those amounts, the taxable amount, that if you do not put that on as income, they will come after you. All right? So a little bit of a major warning there, because I know a lot of people right now that have completely forgot they will have to pay this bill. Even some that do this for like a main business. They sell stuff on Facebook and Craigslist, and a lot of the money they get is through Venmo. They will be screwed if they're not setting some money aside for taxes. Now, let's get into the supply chain disruption. And I want to talk about this because I talked about this just last week as well, is that things are starting to get a little bit better. However, it has also been reported just this morning that the news of our supply chain disruption subsiding, these are actually wrong. And I can admit that, okay, maybe what I said this past week was a little bit wrong, but it isn't wrong in the sense that stores are seeing some relief. The issue is now what we're hearing is retailers are starting to get more and more products in the queue coming in for their holiday shopping season. As a result, they're buying more inventory. The inventory is showing up at the ports. Well, here's the problem, and this is where it all comes down. The problem right now is that there's a shortage of rail workers. And this shortage is causing cargo to pretty much just pile up as soon as it hits the U.S. ports. Doesn't matter if it's over on the West Coast or the East Coast. Doesn't matter. There's a shortage of rail workers everywhere. That's causing a major headache for not just the ports, but for truckers as well. Because truckers show up with a scheduled pickup, and guess what? It's not there. There's nothing for them. They have to wait because, well, there's not enough workers to get the cargo onto the truck. Okay, major issues. And that's where we start to see things really back up. So, I promise I'll keep you updated on what's going on there. The only thing I can tell you right now is this holiday season could be different than all the other seasons that we've seen. It could be something similar to what we saw in 2020. Could be a mix between 2020 and 2021. But some experts anticipate this will be a completely different year. So we'll see. Now, let's talk about flights and what the DOT is trying to do. And first, let me just break down what we've seen so far. Out of 2.73 million flights so far in 2022, about 20% of them have been delayed. 1 out of every 5. That's not good. And a delay could be anything from a 30-minute delay to multiple hours. But another 3% have been canceled completely. Now, what the DOT is trying to do is make the flying experience for consumers much easier and a little bit better. Because what has happened recently is when your flight is canceled, what you get is a voucher. You get a voucher from the airline so that you can use that airline again sometime at a future date. There's a problem there. If I get canceled, and I've seen this happen to multiple friends, where they get a flight canceled and they get a voucher. Okay, so they don't make their trip, it gets canceled for the next day. Well, they don't want to make the trip anymore because it's only, let's say, a 2-day trip, so they just get their flight pushed back. Then months later, they go to book another flight, it get canceled again. Okay, so they don't get that flight either. And they push it back, get another voucher, and it get canceled again. That's the issue. Why would you want to keep going back to the same airline if they keep on canceling you? Well, you don't have a choice because that's the airline that gave you the voucher. Well, what the DOT wants is airlines to refund the money, not provide a voucher. But the problem with this is that refunds right now are very difficult to get from an airline, and sometimes it takes too much time, too much work. Customers don't feel that it's actually worth the trouble. So, essentially what's happening is the consumer is giving free money to the airlines. They're just free money. It's pretty much like a free loan because they have our money. We're going to get a flight eventually, maybe in 6 months or a year or 2 years down the line, who knows. But the airline, okay, they're not paying interest on that. Well, this is what the DOT wants to change, is make it easier for customers to go and get a refund and maybe even get some money for all the troubles that the airline has put them through. So we're going to see what happens there, but that is some good news, is that the DOT is actually looking into this, because I can tell you, for me personally, flying is something I do not want to do, because I would hate to go to the airport with my family, get ready and have everything booked on the other end, and it's like, sorry, your flight has been delayed by 2 or 3 hours. I have a 2-year-old. Do not want to go sit in the airport for 2 or 3 extra hours. I can tell you right now, I would not fly. I would not want to do that. I would hate to use that same airline again. So that's just me. Now, let's talk about the big loss from this $740 billion tax, climate, and healthcare bill. And I'll get into more details of what this bill has in it and what it doesn't once the House passes this bill. But for now, let's address the big issue. One of the big pieces of legislation that was supposed to be in this the Inflation Reduction Act was housing, was affordable housing. This is something that, well, okay, let me pause there for a second. The affordable housing legislation was supposed to be in the Build Back Better Act. It was never put in to the Inflation Reduction Act. It's a problem because there's nothing in this bill for housing. As of right now, the expectation is that the housing market is going to cool off immensely. It's potentially going to crash. Prices are going to take a tumble. The Fed is going to keep raising rates in order to bring down inflation. And the market has pretty much said that we're going to see it crash, right? Prices are going to drop even more. But here's the problem. Buying a home is still out of reach for millions and millions of Americans. And that is why setting money aside for affordable housing was one of the progressives' main goals. However, this didn't happen. So here's what I can tell you. Affordable housing is something that we're not going to see. Not in 2022. It's not going to happen. We are also going to see home prices come down, but rates are still going to be pretty high, which means homes are still going to be very expensive to get into. What's the other option? You rent a home, which means there's more power in the landlord's hands. They can raise the rents, and you are stuck paying it because guess what? You can't afford to buy a home. There's nothing else to rent. Everybody's wanting to rent right now, not buy a home. So guess what? When there's more demand for rentals, the price goes up. That's a huge issue because progressives mainly said we are going to see affordable housing. It will be in here. It's not in here. There's nothing for affordable housing. Nothing. Which means people are going to be paying more. So what I can tell you is there's a lot of people that are very unhappy with what this bill has in it and what it doesn't have in it. I promise over the next week, I will go over exactly what's in this bill, what is not in this bill, and why some are saying that this was actually just kind of misinformation. And we're going to be taxed more. We're going to see more money coming out of pocket for just pretty much paying for this bill. So as always, as I know more, I promise I'll come back on and share all latest news and updates. Again, just want to thank you guys for watching. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Consider subscribing, and I'll see you guys on the next one.